Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm excited. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed your last talk. So I'm excited about this one too.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's been fun because I think it's interesting the questions that have been asked of late, and that people are like, oh, I never knew that, or oh, I hadn't thought of it that way, or and maybe in reflection of like teams that I've been on, teams that I've worked with, and then like, what is the overarching theme? Like, what is the thread that's common that really stands out? And right now, I'm actually, Karin recommended I read Born to Run, and she'd asked me a while back if I had read it, and I said no. And then it kind of popped into my brain, I don't know why, a couple days ago. So I have it on audiobook, and I'm just about done with it on audiobook. And there's the first half of it or so, the first portion of it, I really, really like, because he's like, what is it about these guys? How do they run so fast? I guess it's the guys and the women, the entire culture in Mexico that are just so fast on so little. And he like tells us one story of this race that they ran, and this woman that was leading the race. And then all of a sudden he pops out of the woods and she just stops, because to her, and she literally like quit the race because this guy popped out. She'd been leading for 20 hours or almost, and then all of a sudden in the last like 30 minutes, he ends up getting in front of her and beating her. And the reason she stopped and quit, she ended up finishing the race. But the reason why she ended up quitting was because she looked at him, and she had been racing out of like anger and wanted to prove a point. And he just looked like he was having fun. And she was
Oh,
like, oh my gosh, they've been running this entire thing just having fun, and that was the kind of a thing that he planted in the book, was to be able to enjoy that, so I guess that kind
absolutely.
of plays into what I was going to talk about, or some of the part
So
of the response to one of your questions,
I'm
possibly.
thinking maybe I should introduce you really quickly. So, by the way, I'm Bobby Smith. I'm the executive director for the Crew Classic, and this is Lindsay Dare Shoop, and she is an Olympic gold medalist from the 2008 gold medal winning women's 8. Woohoo!
Yeah.
And also, you're the author of Better Great Than Never, which is
Yep.
a great book. So everybody
Yeah.
get it. And we had discussed beforehand, we're going to talk a little bit tonight about teamwork. And I sent her a quote, which is, teamwork is what makes common people capable of uncommon results, by Pat Summitt.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, I would love to hear, since we are in the ultimate team sport, your thoughts on teamwork.
I love that you use that Pat Summitt sport, because quote, because I actually told somebody, I was like, I'm a normal person that that was able to be a part of a team that did something pretty extraordinary. And I think that if you were to ask any of my teammates, back from the 08, that we would say we're just normal people, and we got together and we wanted to be the best we could possibly be. And we helped each other toward that, and lo and behold, we ended up winning. But when teamwork is something that, like, we're all on teams, whether it's in a sport or out of a sport, whether it's your family or your coworkers or whatever it is. And the way that I feel about teams is that every single person on a team is the best at something. And each of us when we bring the best of ourselves, we get to be each other's role models, and we can really learn from one another, the attributes that we each bring. That's what really makes teams great. So whether you're the person that's always the first there, or the person that's always uplifting or courteous, or there are all sorts of things that the roles that we play on our teams. And I love looking at it that way, because we explore what it is that we can be really great at, but we all also get to learn from one another and teach each other. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it until we come together in groups like that. So yeah.
You play to each other's strengths.
Yeah, and help each other fill the gaps that we all have. We all have gaps, and simply by associating with lots of different types of people, I really think that we're able to help each other become better. And like I said, when we each bring our best to the table every single day, like, here I am, I want to be the best that I can possibly be at being me. And when we each do that, then we're all better for it.
And do you find yourself applying those lessons in your daily life? Obviously, you did for the Olympics, but beyond that, how does that work in your life?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, in a couple of different capacities, because over the last 10 years, I've been coaching at like every level from middle school all the way up, through masters and everything. And when I look at all the things that I've done with all the teams that I've gotten to coach over the years, is like, what has helped these teams excel? Yes, okay, there's training, there's technique, but I always vary that stuff. I always tweak it. So it hasn't been 100% the same every single time. It's never a cookie cutter. But the one thing that never changes is the emphasis on the importance of the people and the people in that group and what they want, that they can enjoy it together, and that they have a common purpose, and that is the foundation of all of it. And so I carried, because that's what I saw when I was training for the games, and I was training in college and then training for the Olympics. That's what we did. We had fun with what we were doing, even on like the hardest of hard days, the ways that we could really like literally help each other up when we fell in the woods, on these adventure runs that we used to go on. Like, it wasn't like, oh, she's down, leave her behind. I was like, okay, I'm just going to help you up now. Knees bleeding, the whole nine.
Right.
But, as well, I was gonna say, on top of the coaching, I do ocean rescue now. And so we are a literal team, and so all of the ways that we backed each other up and helped each other get better, and we were competitive at the same time in a healthy way, I literally use that today to help people in the ocean. We have all the kind of roles that we each play, but it's also, you can be inspired by the people around you. Like, man, look how fast that person is, or look how, how much experience that person has. Like, what can I learn from them?
No, and that is true. Like in every team, somebody has something to contribute, and it's just a matter of finding that in them, and helping them also. And sometimes it's about helping them, right? Helping them and guiding them to help them understand what it is that they're bringing to the team, because not everybody understands what they bring.
Yeah. And you might not even notice it. I had a friend to say to me, in the last couple of years, I always say recently, because it still is on like the forefront of my brain, is he said, each of us take ourselves for granted sometimes. We don't realize what we know, because sometimes we assume everybody knows these things. We take that for granted. And sometimes it does take someone else to be that mirror and help you realize, like, oh, I didn't know that was something unique to me, but this other person appreciates that in you, and it helps you. And that kind of builds you up, because we could all use a little encouragement sometimes.
Well, and I have to say, you seem like a very optimistic person. I'm guessing that's something you have brought to the teams that you're on. Like, you seem to always be like happy, like ready to be there, and just like excited about life.
I am excited about life, and I'm glad that you bring that up. My mom would tell you that I popped out of the womb with a smile on my face, but, and I definitely am a glass half full type of person, but I've been down in the dumps plenty, but now through all the experiences that I've been through in life, I'm at this point where it's like, life is this unique opportunity, like, treat it like a gift, treat it like a unique opportunity. And rowing really taught me, I'm not sure why it happened, but I remember walking to the boathouse one morning and just was awestruck by how beautiful the sky was on this one random day. And here it was, the sun's barely coming up. It's dark in the parking lot. I'm the only one there. It's cold. We're in New Jersey. And I just stood back, and I looked at the sky, and I thought, wow, I am so lucky to get to do this, And a lot of times we can get kind of bogged down by like, oh man, it's morning, it's cold, I'm by myself. No, it is a gift. The opportunity to train, the opportunity to be a part of a team, the opportunity to be awake and see something that gorgeous, and ever since then, I've carried that into my daily life too, just appreciating the small moments that really are just life-changing if you take the time to really pay attention to them. And there's another moment when, and I actually write about several of these in the book, but on a Friday night, my first year training with the national team, we're sitting on the stationary bikes. We had 100 minutes to pedal, and it's snowing outside, pitch black dark, and I remember we were just laughing and joking with each other about being on the bikes on a Friday night. Like, what are not normal, other people our age doing right now? Probably not 100 minutes of steady state on a bicycle. But it was in that moment, like, I knew more than anything, there was nowhere else in the world that I would rather be, because it was this unique opportunity that I had then. You can spend the rest of your life doing everything else, but this, with these people in this environment, that was then. And it really being able to appreciate that, we talk about savoring and gratitude, and it didn't dawn on me. I was like, I don't understand that. Oh, appreciate. Appreciate is another word. I really appreciated the opportunity to be surrounded by those people and get to experience those things, and that's when we talk about the process of training, like if you can appreciate the process through all of its ups and downs, it just makes it so much better, because it really is a unique opportunity.
And I feel like this last year has been such a great time to learn to appreciate, right?
Mhm.
It's been, a lot of people haven't been able to get in boats. And yet I know showing up to a boathouse and seeing teammates, it's
Yeah.
so amazing because
Yeah.
first of all, we had to have time away from them. Then we
Mhm.
got to finally be back together. And then it's like recently in San Diego, we've been allowed back in some smaller team boats, like
Mhm.
fours and
Mhm.
quads,
Mhm.
but still it's so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever been that excited as a coach to be coaching
Yeah.
teammates too. It's like, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
know how to do this.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny too, right? Like somebody asked me, I can't remember when it was, how do I feel about all the sculling, right? So I'm like, people are rowing singles. That's amazing. The first 7 or 8 months that I spent on the national team, we basically only rowed singles because that was kind of the best way for us to learn. We got to row alongside one another. We were all there, but we were in our own boats doing our own things, so it really makes you appreciate your teammates so much more. Plus sculling keeps you healthy. First of all, you're going to get so much feedback, you're going to stay healthy. But then when you do have that opportunity, you're like, oh wow, I took this for granted before and didn't even realize I was taking it for granted. So there are so many positives to come out of this situation.
I think a lot of coaches, especially those who focus on the bigger boats, we're always saying we want small boats, we want small boats, small. Well, we
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And we got to figure out how being a team works in that environment as well.
Yeah.
It's different, but still it's a team.
Yeah. And I it's an interesting, it wasn't an experiment, I guess, but it was a really interesting, it highlighted that the people are the part that make it real. The people are the part that make it special. It's not the training, right? If it were just the training, come in and do the work, right? I've never been a fan of that because I've heard that phrase a lot. Just sit down and do the work. Well, when you do the work with other people, it goes by faster. You probably enjoy it more. There you get so much more out of it. And if you can do like just a hair better on every single day, then race day is gonna be way better. And so just by having people there with you, it's really been a cool highlight of the importance of connection. And that's what makes teams go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? Here's
Awesome
one
questions.
that I actually, one of my coxswains asked me how do you stay motivated and how do you help to motivate others once you've reached the top? Like once you had, you got all the way up there, but like staying motivated. No, I mean, my guess is, when did you know that you had made the 8 for the summer? I think they like to push that out pretty far.
Oh yeah, you find out a month before you leave. Like the Olympics, 8/8. Yeah, so first week in August was when the opening ceremonies was. It was like June 24th, 5th, 6th that we found out we made the team. And that holds true to this day, unless you're like rowing the single or rowing one of the trials events, right? And even then, you won't necessarily find out. So you don't find out to the very end. But the thing is, we had so much fun, like, and when you're enjoying what you're doing every day, the motivation is easy. And so when you can again appreciate every moment, even when things are really hard and like your hands are bleeding because they're cracked from the cold weather and you have ice on your jacket, or it's so hot that you can't even close your mouth, you're just panting the whole time, you feel like you're going to pass out. If you can find something to appreciate in there, even if it's when you're done with that, you're like, wow, we just did that, you know, then that continues to build you up. And that, for me personally, I'm sure that each of us would say something different, but for me personally, that was incredibly motivating. It was like, wow, this is building us up every day. We're learning something every day. For me, I used to hate to read. I used to, like, I wasn't, a learner in
And
the
that's an
traditional.
author.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. A learner in the traditional sense, but now it's the idea that you can learn something new from every experience you have and every person around you. Is exciting for me. That's why I love coaching and I love education. What I love about Ocean Rescue is you're constantly assessing and learning and helping people, and that's invigorating and incredibly motivating for me. And all the way up through the games, like I think that was something that was particularly unique about our group that came through that quad, was how much we enjoyed each other. I mean, we played pranks on each other and the coaches, and we were
Any
able
really
to.
good ones?
Yeah. Yeah. What's that?
I said, any really good ones?
um you know One in particular. Here's a funny example. I remember the first year that I trained, and this involves Susan Francia, always the prankster, always, keeping it light, and the first year that I trained Tom, we did a lot of lactate testing, and he would bring up these scientific concepts, and so we were kind of like, what is he, like the mad scientist? So Susan's mom, having a background in science, she got a bunch of like anatomy charts, and she got some masks and rubber gloves and things like that. And Tom had this little table that he just randomly brought to practice one day, and he decided to keep in the corner of the room as if he was a mad scientist, right? So then Susan like hung all of these like charts and things to kind of like build out this like fake doctor's office, and just stuck him up there, and then we just, went about our business. It was all done without him realizing it. It was just there when he showed up, and so for us, we thought it was hysterical.
Yeah.
We're doing our warm up, we're doing our training session, and he took it in stride. He thought it was funny. At the time, there were only 7 of us training in Jersey, so he knew exactly who did it. It's not like it was a mystery. But we were able to have that kind of relationship, which was just so incredibly helpful, because, and I write about this in the book too, when you're doing something that is so challenging, being able to laugh at the challenge, almost like you enter into it knowing this is going to be really hard, and that helps you kind of get over that apprehension of like, oh, you're not shocked by it. Oh my gosh, this was hard. Who knew? No, of course it's hard. You could like, it's probably the hardest thing you've ever done, and so being able to like keep it light when you're not in the boat, and be able to step away from practice and kind of look at it and reflect on it, and again go back to and be like, wow, look what we did that.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say I know I've had teams where they knew when to be on, and when they were off, they were off. And you know what? They were some of my favorite teams to coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And that goes to that. Well, I was going to say that goes to the book that I was telling you about, where when you look at, it's like, how are these people so fast? They don't have it. They don't have the perfect science, the perfect this, the perfect, they aren't shaving the seconds off of this. They're enjoying what they do, and that helps them excel. These quirky, non-traditional people that train somehow go very fast. Well, there's a lot to be said for enjoying it every day.
That makes it a lot easier to do it, for one thing.
Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, here's one. So the upcoming Crew Classic is going to be virtual, which means it's actually going to be on ergometers, which is different than being on the water and in a boat together. But it is, the nice thing about it is everybody starts and finishes together. So it's not like an average of the 2Ks or anything. Everybody it's gonna feel like a race where you cross the finish together. What advice would you give people though about erging? Like, do you have any like mantras, anything, because it is different. How do you enjoy it?
There's lots of advice with erging, like make sure, be as comfortable as you can, right? Like the rowing part is hard enough. Like if you can free up all the other tiny little bits, like make sure your feet are in the right spot, you have your right shoes. If you need a butt pad, I erged with a butt pad, right? There's no reason to rub a hole in my butt. It freed up, right? It freed up discomfort for the exertion, and that's my philosophy with everything in rowing, like if you have a favorite playlist that really does give you that little extra, play it. Sometimes coaches will say, oh, but you don't have it in the race. Well, if you can get this much more training effect 1, 2, 3 times a week because you're playing a really good, playlist, then on race day, when you don't, like, if you're in a boat and you don't have music, you're going to be so much stronger by that point because you have literally pushed yourself more. You have gone to the hurt locker more to a greater extent. You've really gone all in for all of those training days that you're automatically going to be faster, on that particular day. But yeah, that's my biggest one. Like, do all the set yourself up right, set yourself up for success. Treat it like race day. Have your start time, there's nothing different about it. That's one of my favorite things about, like, you're going to erg test. Well, learn so that, have your pre-race meal, sleep the night before, brush your teeth. It'll open up. I'm serious. Like, I figured out, I just like the way that brushing my teeth, like, made me feel invigorated and made me feel like I could breathe better. Lo
Yeah.
and behold, they've done studies with peppermint. Like, peppermint actually is invigorating. So that there is something to the minty freshness. It
I always brush
actually is.
my teeth first thing in the morning, so it's before I row.
Yeah,
Now
yeah. But even if, like, you're rowing in the afternoon, yeah, as part of my pre-race ritual was, like, I would brush my teeth. But go through your whole pre-race ritual. Yeah. And then you can hone it and tweak it for when you are actually back on the water.
absolutely. Well, and another thing, like, this is going to be 6, 7, 8 minutes long. Like, have your playlist, have the
Yeah.
song, like your
Yeah.
crew to listen to or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think, to be honest, that's probably good. Like, we've been here for 20
Yeah.
minutes. I could talk to you for forever. I really enjoy your stories, so thank you.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna, let you go to bed. You are on the East Coast.
I'm actually, well, we jumped forward, and I don't get home till almost 8 o'clock because we work 10-hour days with Ocean Rescue. So, yeah, you did ask what was your question about injury? I know that we can end here.
Like, have you ever had to come back from injury? And if so, like, how do you stay focused, to getting back onto the water?
Yeah. Teammates help a lot, and you can learn from one another a lot, and I actually didn't get hurt for the first 7.5 years that I rode. And that was actually a huge thing that has informed me as a coach to this day. That's why I got my master's in exercise physiology, so I could, like, figure out why the heck I was able to stay healthy when almost everybody else got hurt. um, but when I did finally get hurt, first of all, it was confusing, and I write about injury a little bit in the book. I would like to write a second book that really dives deeply into this whole topic, because um, it's not so much the injury that is the issue, it's the uncertainty. You're like, how long am I going to be hurt exactly? Could you please tell me the answer to that? Nobody knows, and that's the part. It's the uncertainty. Like, no matter what it is, whether it's an injury or anything else, like, uncertainty is a scary thing. And to be able to come back from it, like, being really patient is the most important thing you can do, because really, at the end of the day, for me personally, the most important thing is to be built up by what I'm doing every day. Like, how can I be a little bit better? And if the rowing is just constantly knocking you down, then something is not right. These things that we choose to do shouldn't only knock us down. So be patient and let yourself recover. Mark Nowak, amazing PT, he would say the biggest mistake you can make is rest without rehab. Like, yes, rest it, but can you do something else where you're actually seeing a PT who is maybe checking to make sure the joint is in the right place? Because if you just stay off it without making sure that there isn't something else going on, then you might just re-injure whatever is going on as soon as you get going again. So rest with rehab is his recommendation. Like, make sure that you're doing something that will help build you up, over
And
time.
know that your teammates will also help you through.
Yeah.
And that's why
Yeah.
I know myself. That's why I do this sport. I love having a team. It is amazing.
Yeah. I think also with the injury, it's very similar to, like, the embrace the challenge part of it, where, okay, races are not easy. Don't fool yourselves. These are not easy, right? And an injury is similar. It's like, you know what, this is really hard, and that's okay. And you might cry because it's really upsetting, but we'll get through this. Yeah.
Absolutely. I tell my athletes, I'm like, just wear sunglasses. It
Yeah.
happens to all of us, you just put them down, you hide, and then
And
you,
the body is miraculous. After I got hurt, I said I would never, like when I finally decided to retire and all this kind of stuff, and I was done with rowing, I said, I don't want to get hurt again. So I'm never going to run more than a half an hour ever again in my life. I'm never going to lift heavy weights ever again because I thought that would maybe hurt me. Lo and behold, like 4 months later, I ran a half marathon dressed as a purple octopus. When you do it right and you build it up carefully, exercise, lifting weights, all these things will keep you healthy. You just have to, the dose response, pay attention to the dose response, and sleep a lot, a lot.
sleep is very important. Yeah, we say 8 hours is like 8 hours is making a deposit into like your bank account. 7 hours is keeping it even, and 6 or less is taken out. It's taking money.
Definitely. I mean, they've even done studies with athletes in training. So athletes in training, even if you dip below that 8, you can actually start to see declines in all of the things we're trying to improve through our training. You see like 10 to 40% decline. When I was like at the peak, like Olympic year peak training, if you were to take, I know that most people can't do this. If you were to add up how much I would sleep at night plus naps during the day, because I have training logs for all of this, I tracked all of it, 11 to 14 hours I would sleep.
Oh, wow.
So like if I wasn't training or eating, I was asleep. Which I think I'd like, and I didn't drink coffee, so I can't help but think that really sleeping a ton was like the opposite of kryptonite, whatever the opposite of kryptonite is, like the thing that really helped a lot. It was like Popeye and spinach, that was
your yellow sun. I think that's what makes Superman strong.
Yes. Yeah.
So, well, hey, I believe in sleep, so I am 100% with you right there. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go now. Thank you. And especially thank you for that about injury at the end. Like that, it's important. And it's something that a lot of people will go through at some point in time. And just knowing that like other people have been through it, they came back. And again, what you said, the uncertainty. I've told my athletes right now that all this uncertainty, it's like an injury, right? Because you just don't know when it's going to end. You don't know when you're going to get to it. You don't know. There's so many things that you don't know. And so I said, this will prepare you mentally for that. Someday, if that ever happens to you, you can look back and think, I made it through. So anyway,
control what you can, right?
It was great seeing you. Hopefully sometime I'll actually get to see you in person.
Yeah, one of these days.
One of these days. I guess that's it. So have a lovely evening. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll talk again.
Yeah. I'll see you soon. I mean, I guess I see you. I just don't see 3-dimensional you.
Yes, I agree. All right. Well, have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Everybody else too. Bye.